Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming off of a high-flying weekend of basketball and lots of it. Thanks a lot for joining us. Of course, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymoorehonda.com and get more to your door and the best in new and used vehicles. First up, of course, as always, on each and every Monday, Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network. And did you have a weekend off in this madness, Greg? Because I know that
there's no such thing for me, and I can tell your voice to not have a weekend off. Do I need to come to the studios and pinch it for you at some point in time this week?
That would be wonderful as always, man.
No, so my weekend, I had a day off yesterday to answer your question, and I had a night off Friday night. I had a doubleheader on Saturday. So Milan 70th anniversary celebration. I was the MC for that at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But then once the basketball season winds down for me, I start to merge into the soccer season. So I had the Indy 11 home opener in the USL Championship as they took on Sacramento Republic. 1-1 was the score. So since it was only a goal apiece, I have plenty of voice left. So my voice is just fine after my Saturday activities.
That's awesome. And yeah, the Milan 70th anniversary of the Milan Miracle happened this past Saturday down at Knightstown. And I had wanted to get down there, but unfortunately, it's just too much going on with Indianapolis being an NCAA tournament site and Bloomington being an NCAA tournament site, and poor Jim just being a little tired. And you can tell the voice a little worse for the wear, but that's okay. That had to be an incredible thing to be a part of, Greg.
It was, and we're so fortunate that of the 12 players that were on that Milan team, 8 of them are still with us, and 5 of them were able to be present and be honored. Bobby Plump, Ray Kraft, Roland Cutter, Roger Schroeder, and Gene White, who, what a week for Gene. Literally, he's part of the Milan 70th anniversary celebration on Saturday. He goes into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame on Wednesday. And so that was, and I was fortunate to be the MC for that event as well. And so I joke that once I get to late March and into early April, it becomes the rubber chicken circuit for me because it's banquet time, and I get to MC a lot of those. But Governor Holcomb was there. Mitch Daniels was there. We had video tributes from Jim Nance, Bob Costas, Morris Valanis, who is Jimmy Chitwood, did a video tribute. Both Steve Holler and Brad Long, who are Raid Butcher and Buddy Wampler, for those of you that can, name the players from Hoosiers, were there. Angelo Pizzo spoke at this thing. It was just, this is something I'm fortunate enough. I'm actually on the board of directors for the Milan Museum. So I wasn't just showing up and yapping. This is something that I've known about for a year and been a part of the planning process of. And it was such a good day. A little chilly outside, which meant people were in the gym. We had no problem starting on time at 11 a.m. But it was just so super cool. And I know the players so appreciated it. And that made all the effort worth it. And the other thing that I will tell people is this, aim number 1 of that day was to recognize what those men did 70 years ago. Aim number 2 was to be able to say, hey, the museum is here and, it needs your support. We want to be able to keep telling this story for at least the next 70 years, if not beyond. And so if any of, your listeners, you viewers are so moved, Milan54.org is the website. You can find out more information, museum hours. If you're home for spring break, it's a great way to pass some time and take a walk down memory lane. But frankly, from a funding standpoint, if you want to donate, There's a link to donate on the website too, milan54.org.
Hey, I'm telling you, from being there myself on more than one occasion, just walking into that gym is awesome. If you're like me, I like to just stand there and take stuff in. I remember the first time I went there, you just stand there and you look around and you go into the locker room, and it's unbelievable. And I've said this 1,000 times that they were actually able to shoot any full feature movie scenes in that locker room, because it is as tiny as they make it look. They don't make it look tiny. It is tiny, but it's just amazing. I grew up, of course, down in Georgetown, Greg, and Georgetown used to be the Georgetown High School. It's now it's been in elementary school for a long time, but their gym, they're almost replicas. That same tongue and groove paneling, the same 1 foot between the out of bounds sidelines and the walls. But I grew up playing pickup games in those things. But it's just going in there it's stepping back in time.
So there is almost like this East Central Southeast Indiana trilogy, and there has been talk and it's being worked on now of forming like an Indiana basketball trail. Obviously, in Kentucky, there's the Bourbon Trail. You go to Alabama, there's the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail. In Indiana, we're going to have a basketball trail. But, all three entities were represented at this event on Saturday. So the gym that you're talking about is in Knightstown, is the Hoosier Gym. And it was chosen to be the home of the fictional, Hickory Huskers. And really, when Angelo Pizzo and David Anspaugh were creating this movie 40 years ago, they wanted to find, small town, small school, small gymnasium, and then other gyms to represent road games. And they wanted everything for centralized production to be within about an hour radius of Indianapolis. So other than Hinkle Fieldhouse, the only part of the movie that was filmed in Marion County was the first road game. The second game was the game against Cedar Knob that had the overhang. Ray throws the punch. Your team playing with a bunch of gorillas, etc.
Hey, and the gorilla. The gorilla, by the way.
That is the St. Philip Neri Gymnasium, which is East Side Catholic School, would be in the Cecina Archdiocese, the East Side Archdiocese. The school, the Hickory High School, that was in Nineveh. Sadly, that burned down many years ago, so that is no longer with us. The town of Hickory is New Richmond, which is out by Crawfordsville, is where that can be found. And then the gymnasium is Knightstown. And obviously, the people behind that have turned that into a shrine. But, Jim, here's the cool thing. They play about 75 or 80 games a year in that building. They'll have their annual Hoosier Gym Classic, which comes up on April the 27th. We get to produce those games on the ISC Sports Network. But that really has become, the top 25 to 30 kids in the state play in that game. And I tell people, what stuns me is you convince half the kids to play for Terhune in that game. If I'm playing in that contest, I'm demanding I'm playing for the Hickory Huskers. So that's one aspect of it. Obviously, the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame is just up the road from Knightstown, and it represents the entire state. But believe me, there's Milan and Hickory, stuff that's in there too. And now you have this museum, and it's been there for a long time, but it's in this old house/bank in downtown Milan on Carr Street. You walk in, you see this huge vault when you walk in. But there's a couple of things I would point out to people that want to go to the Milan 54 Museum. Jersey representing every team that was to be depicted in the movie Hoosiers. And there's a lot of uniforms that don't get used in the movie. So there's a chance that you might see your high school fictionalized that never appeared in a game played in Hoosiers, but yet those jerseys are represented. For example, I don't think I recall seeing a Bossy jersey in Hoosiers. There's one in the museum. I don't recall seeing a Franklin jersey in the in the movie, but you see it in the museum. The other thing I will point out when you go to the museum is this. You kind of walk around the main room. There's a hallway kind of behind it. A Purdue student put together a bracket for all 700 plus teams that competed in the 1954 state tournament. So wherever you may be from, you can walk in and you can find your hometown or your high school and see exactly the tournament. So Jim and I would go to the same sectional. We go to the New Albany sectional to see how both Lanesville and Georgetown would have done. And if my memory serves, Jimmy, we beat Laconia in round number 1. We didn't fare as well against New Albany in our second game of the 1954 sectional, did my Lanesville Eagles.
Well, they are. I'm behind them all the way, as always. But that is amazing. That is some cool stuff, and it gives me a great idea that would be right up your alley because you have so much time on your hands. But
right,
a book, a backstory book of Hoosiers, because all that stuff that people don't know, and there's tons of it, like you just mentioned, and I'm sure there's tons more.
Yeah, now I got more work to do. Thanks, Jim. Now I got to do this book. I appreciate that. What I would say is this: this is one of the things that hit me over the years in terms of the movie, and I think most people know who Bill Simmons is, and maybe you like Bill, maybe you don't. But Bill, in his early writing days for ESPN.com, like literally compiled stats for the Hickory Huskers season in the movie. Like so-and-so averaged X amount of points per game, or Jimmy Chitwood missed X amount of shots during the course of the game. Like, there might be something to this movie, even more so than I remember. And on a personal note, you know, they had a 30-year reunion for the Hickory players, and 7 of the 8 Hickory Huskers are still with us. Sadly, Kent Poole, who played Merle Webb, number 12, has been gone for some time. But the rest of the guys are still with us in terms of the players, you know, in that movie. We had a reunion not 30 years ago, but 8 years ago at this point, in 2016, and I was asked to MC that function, and I said, guys, I'm sorry, I've got another event that has an Indy 11 match. I ended the phone call with, as soon as I hang up this phone, 10-year-old me is going to kick my rear end. Well, 10-year-old me got to be present at the Milan reunion, and 47-year-old me thought it was equally as cool that I got to be a part of that on Saturday.
I'm jealous, but happy for you, because that is something that'll never happen again. And I don't mean the number 70. I mean,
sure,
the people that were there, the event, the principals that were able to be there. That's why I so desperately wanted to get over there. I knew that. I'm like, dude, I don't care about anything else. This is actually, it was bigger, and I should have made it no matter what a point to be able to get there. But that's something I'll lament for a long, long time. But man, I'm so happy for you. And I can't wait till we start having a little more time to talk after this crazy parts of the season's over, because there's so much that I could talk to you for an hour today on there, not just on Milan, but we've got the IHSAA that has clearly shown that they have no interest in seeding the football tournament. We've got the state championships coming up after a week break this weekend. Get back to Indiana high school basketball as the colleges took over the NCAA this weekend and past weekend in Indianapolis. I know we've got just a minute left here, but what are you looking forward to? And we may have to get you back on again before just to preview this.
If you want me to pop back on later this week, AKA save your voice, I'm perfectly fine. You know, we can do that. But in terms of my weekend, I'll have the last 2 games on TV. So I get to see Scottsburg and South Bend St. Joe, followed by Fishers and Ben Davis. And again, the storyline on Fishers and Ben Davis, they played each other the first game of the season. They will play each other the last game of the season. Fishers won that game by 13, ending Ben Davis's 33-game winning streak. But again, there's a big old asterisk there because Mark Zachary did not play in that game because he was getting ready for the football state finals. In case folks haven't seen it, because it just came out, the junior all-stars were named, and Mark Zachary is one of the core 6. And again, we all think that follow him and follow kind of high school sports in the Indianapolis area, that while Mark would be easily a Division I basketball player, we all think he's going to be an NFL defensive back, at some point in the next 4 or 5 years. So probably that is the route he will go after one more year of high school. But he's a great kid and a phenomenal player. And the Fishers and Ben Davis teams are both great teams. There is not a dominant star on either one of them. They are simply well put together, well coached basketball teams. I think the 4A game is going to be fantastic. I think the 2A and 3A games are going to be really good as well. And obviously for those in South Central Indiana, with both Brownstown and Scottsburg making the state championship, the Mid-Southern Conference is clearly very well represented. If there's a game that I worry about getting away, it's the 1A game. Now, Bethesda Christian plays a great schedule because they play in the Indianapolis area. Canterbury can play some larger schools because they play in the Fort Wayne area. But most of the talent and the higher-ranked teams in 1A this year were pretty lopsided in the southern half of the bracket. So if there is a game that I worry about getting away, it's the 1A game. But I really think 2A, 3A, 4A, while there are definitive favorites, I do think there's going to be some really good games, those last three especially, coming up Saturday at Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
And make sure you're following each and every bit of the content that Greg not only puts out, but is a part of, period, because that makes it a jewel. You're lucky you don't have to be a part of just talking about all this portal transfer stuff going on. Can you imagine if that was an Indiana high school basketball? My goodness.
I'm not going to lie, Jim. I did a daily talk show for 9 years. There are parts of it I don't miss. That would be one of them, yes.
Absolutely. Peyton Sparks heading back to Ball State, which oddly enough, I was thinking, I'm like, man, he needs to go back to Ball State. And not because I'm a genius, because it was just, he probably shouldn't have left, to be honest with you. And I can only imagine how much that hurt Ball State and Michael Lewis this season, not having him. And instead of sitting on the bench for Indiana. So, but he's going back there. And so I'm happy for Michael Lewis and those guys. But man, there's so much to talk about. Golly, like I said, we could go on for days right here on that stuff. But maybe we have to try to get you on Thursday if it works into your schedule.
We'll do it, buddy. All good. Happy to help and let your guests talk a little bit more so you can make it through the rest of the show.
There you go. But make sure you go to, where was the Milan 54? I had it.
So
Milan54.org. There we go.
Correct. And then just a quick reminder, if you want to watch the state finals this weekend, ihsaatv.org, or simply put, get a ticket and come say hello to me Saturday night at Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
That's right. And one purchase, so that gets you all the games, right?
$15 for one game, but just spend $20, and that way you got all four waiting on you. By the time we get to Saturday, we're down to the Elite Eight, and there's just 2 games. So just get the $20 ticket. It's at your disposal all day long. And if you're not going to make it to Gamebridge, if you're on spring break or spend an Easter weekend with your family, put in the $20, help high school athletics, and we'll do our best to make it worth your while to broadcast.
Looking forward to it, man. Greg, I can't thank you enough as always, and looking forward to getting caught up on everything else. There's so much. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it, Jimmy. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir. Greg Rakestraw from the ISC Sports Network, and he is going to be he's always deep involved in something, but the Indiana State Finals coming up this weekend. We've got Don Fischer, I believe, coming up next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and he'll pack his season away for Indiana, and we'll talk about what they're looking forward to and his looking back, as many other things, including Dusty May being announced as the new coach at Michigan after Louisville thought that they had him locked in. But we're back with plenty more, brought to you by FreeThink. Of course, for all your printing and apparel need, go to freethinkapparel.com. Whether it's 24 T-shirts or 200 you need, just reach out to freethinkapparel.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Boys.
Good morning,
hey,
Don.
sir. How you doing, Donald?
I'm doing all right. Probably a little late. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We
Don't
went long
worry.
in
I
our
was
first segment.
going along with Greg Rakestraw. Greg's been on before you, and I'm like, man, there's 1,000 things we could talk about, and there's 16,000. Mondays could always be like a 6-hour show, I think.
Imagine trying to do 6 hours with your voice today, though.
Man, I could. It's true. That wouldn't work. Matter of fact, I need to run out and grab some hot coffee.
There you go. Get something to soothe the throat a little bit.
Well, that's what you get when you stay up all night and drink. Sorry.
All right.
No Cinderellas left.
I know it's honestly, I mean, I guess you can kind of call NC State a Cinderella, just considering that they had to play on the day of shame in the ACC tournament to get in.
I mean, you could say Creighton maybe, but they're in a big conference.
I had them picked in my Final Four, Don.
I've got them in my national title game.
I haven't. I don't even pick a bracket. I don't even do a bracket anymore.
Well, that's smart. See, that way,
I do pick a winner. The winner I picked was knocked out in the first round.
Who is that? Kentucky?
No, Auburn.
Oh, okay.
Well, don't worry. My winner is still there, but virtually everybody else was knocked out either in the first round or the second round. It was it's been awesome, to be honest with you. I enjoyed the heck out of it. But
the first round upsets were really cool.
It's that's what I love about it. I'm like, I don't even care about the brackets. It's just I love watching these games. I was one of the idiots, and I should say this, but I watched right up last night the last men's and women's game of the night, which both went into the morning, ended in overtime.
Huh.
I'm like, okay, they can't stretch this out anymore.
Exactly.
All right, here we go, guys.
Tara Vanderbilt, Surround and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop, Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, brought to you by the great folks over at Chop Shop Market and Table, home of Indiana men's and women's inside basketball coaches shows with Don Fischer during the season, and just a great place to stop in and grab a bite to eat, go to the deli, go to the market, go to the bakery. They've got it all. And we've got it all because we've got Don Fischer. And Don, what a weekend. NCAA play of news. Dusty May goes to Michigan after it looked like Louisville had him locked in and they can't get the deal done. And it was just crazy. And so not only now, and there's going to be a segment of the IU fan base that, and I'll get into this later, and I'm going to tell them just to hush, just to stop. But that are going to be talking about that again, which I'm not going to entertain it. And I'm going to tell them, end it, stop. But Dusty May goes to Michigan, so congratulations to him, first of all. A kid that started out, he was a man, played for Eastern Green, and I believe his coach was Brooks Barnheiser's dad over Eastern Green, which is just kind of brings everything full circle again of this region, this area of basketball, whether we're talking about high school, college, or whatever. But very cool, but very happy for Dusty. He could have easily left last year, but the funny thing, Don, is the only jobs that were really available were like Penn State and something like that. And people didn't think that thought that he was going to make the move. And he just says, nah, he took a little bump at Florida Atlantic and stayed in there. And now he's better for it. So he's going to be not only be playing or coaching against Indiana and recruiting against Indiana. So that's going to be something fun for Hoosier fans.
Well, no doubt. Dusty is a terrific coach. He's a terrific young coach. I think he's 46, maybe something like that. But Dusty is a great person more than anything else. I love him to death. Been friends with him ever since he was a manager at IU. And played a lot of cards with him when he was with Mike Davis at IU. Back in the day, we played a lot of poker.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of fun. It was really fun. We had Joe Smith, myself, Kit Klingelhofer, Mike Davis, and we had so did other people came in every now and then.
Mike was a poker player too?
Oh, we all played. We were all playing in Texas. We played all different kinds of games, but
that's awesome.
We played 5-card draw. It was dealer's choice, that kind of thing. So
who was the best card player?
Oh gosh, that's hard to. Dusty was pretty good. I mean, Mike Davis. Mike Davis was tremendous because he had more money than all the rest of us, of course, and so he'd bet every hand.
I'm all in.
He would bet every
hand,
baby.
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't go all in on most of them, but he would bet every hand just about. He wanted to see if anybody was going to challenge him. But we just had a ball with it. It was really a lot of fun. We probably had in those days, we probably played about 20 different poker games throughout the time that Mike was here. And of course, Dusty was here a good part of that as the video coordinator when he was with Indiana in his first coaching position. So at any rate, long story short, I talked to him yesterday. I congratulated him. I know he and his family are very excited about the opportunity at Michigan. I think he'll do a phenomenal job there. I really do. He'll change that. He'll change some things without question. But here's the biggest problem with Dusty being there. He will recruit the state of Indiana, and
absolutely
that'll get Matt Painter and Mike Woodson and anybody else in the state of Indiana with a college basketball team. It'll get their attention very quickly.
Well, not only that, Don, you already have, like you mentioned, Indiana, Purdue, Notre Dame, Butler, and I'm not even mentioning Valpo and All State, Indiana State, Iowa, Michigan State, all these Big Ten teams that already were constantly recruiting the state as well. So now not only do you bring in someone at Michigan that already recruited the state somewhat, you got a guy who has deep roots in the state of Indiana.
Right. Janelle Davis, who was the best player on the Florida Atlantic team, was from the region up there. Indiana.
Wasn't his dad recruited by Bob Knight? Was there something story like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know I've heard some rumor to that effect, but I have no idea if that was factual.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I think John L. Davis has a year of eligibility left.
He does.
And as does Golden, his big man in the middle. And I think there's one other that I would expect and be surprised if they do not follow him to the land of the maize and blue.
I don't doubt that at all. I would bet money on the two that you mentioned, and there may be a third guy. But without question, there'll be guys that will follow him because he's a really good basketball coach and he's proven it.
I know that in the transfer portal, something luckily you don't have to keep up with, but Peyton Sparks has apparently gone back to Ball State, which that's something that I thought a long time. I'm like, man, he shouldn't have left Ball State. He should have stayed there because all that did was it really hurt Michael Lewis and his attempts to get things going in Ball State. And I don't know how much coming to Indiana helped Peyton. So he's in a much better situation. So happy for Michael, happy for Peyton. I think that's a great spot for them and they can get that back going. Connor Esigian is in the transfer portal, just to throw out a couple of names, but it's the wild, wild west, baby.
Yeah, and there's no question. Indiana needs shooters. That to me is maybe the number one priority right now, because we still don't know what Khalil Ware is going to do. Malik Renew can play the post. He is a 6'9", 240-pounder that can play the post position if that, in fact, turns out to be the case. And he's got all the inside moves. That's truly his natural position, I think, even though he can go out and shoot a three every once in a while, that kind of thing.
And that makes him actually a more dangerous post player, in my opinion.
Right, exactly. So we'll just have to wait and see how this all plays out with Khalil Ware and what he decides to do, because obviously I haven't even heard a rumor at this point as to what he's decided on this happening in regard to his situation in the NBA. So
there's no doubt he's going to put his name in, especially right up until the minute where you have to withdraw or not,
right?
And go to Chicago, go through the workouts. I'll be shocked if Mackenzie Mbako does not enter his name just to go through that process if he's able to get an invite to Chicago.
Right.
They go up there just to get input, if nothing else.
Sure.
But Khalil Ware is one of those that's really, he's on the border of one that probably won't come back because I think that he really showed, Don, the last half of the season, especially his consistency for the most part was there. There were a few games where he disappeared after having a good game, but overall his game really was just pretty damn solid.
Yeah, there's no question about that. And he was a major reason why Indiana finished strong at the end of the regular season. He did a terrific job during those ball games, and even when he wasn't scoring it as much as he normally did, he was able to pull down rebound after rebound. He became a double, a guy who could rebound and shoot the basketball at a high level almost every one of those ball games. So without question, right now this team is in flux. This program is in flux in regard to the transfer portal. They've got 6 scholarships available right now that they can go out and find people. We'll see how it all plays out. There's no doubt that it's going to be, I think the priority has to be on 3-point shooters. I think they've got to find at least two more guys in the portal that can shoot the basketball from outside, because that is their biggest need right now, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And I will say this, last year, I think that Mike and his staff learned a valuable, hard-learned lesson, because last year they were had tunnel vision on guys that they wanted. It was just tunnel vision. Oh, that we want this guy, and it was the eggs and all in one basket type of thing. This year has been the opposite. They are casting a very, very wide net. I know that every day on the Hoosier.com, we've seen a new player that Indiana is apparently showing interest in, and I'd say 70% of those so far have been guards, and every day it's a new name coming up. Last year, that was not the case. It was every few days you might see one, and it was this guy or that guy, but they're very, very wide net this year, because I think they've also seen these guys are coming from all over the place. How about the dude from Hillsborough College who almost single-handedly led Oakland to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, I mean, that guy was special, but they face guarded him like crazy in the ball game they lost yesterday.
Oh my God.
He couldn't find an opening to shoot the basketball. I mean, I guess early on he hit 3. I didn't see the beginning of that ball game. But he apparently hit some in the early going, and then they put a guy on him, and all that guy did was face guarding the rest of the ball game, which made his
cut loose of him.
Impossible. Exactly.
There were Siamese twins. I was watching that. I'm like going, this dude is not getting another shot off unless something happens, unless somebody tackles the guy guarding him, because I guarantee you the coach says, if he gets free from here, your scholarship is gone. But that was fun to watch. And I've got a video I'm going to have to send you. I saw the funniest thing that someone sent me, a guy that just breaks down games and yells at coaches. No cussing, anything like that. It reminds me of Sam Kinison. We're going to have it later on in the show, but he was ripping John Calipari over that game. And he was showing the video, and you'll get a kick out of it. That I promise you. It was great. But yeah, I'm looking. What did you do this weekend? That's my question.
I watched basketball. I watched basketball primarily. Well, I went to football practice on Saturday. So I was there at football practice on Saturday. I've seen both of the practices thus far. Love what I'm seeing from Kurt Cignetti and the staff. This guy is a CEO. He's the CEO of the program, and you can see it. He sits on the sideline, or stands on the sideline, I should say, and watches practice. He will go in there and throw in his 2 cents every now and then, but they are organized. There's a bunch of guys that I've been very impressed with early on. The two that stick out that are new are the Rourke kid, the quarterback from Ohio University. He looks special. And Kalen Black, who was a running back at James Madison for Kurt Cignetti. This guy's got some wheels. It's really going to be fun to watch and see. But it's very early on. They've got a lot of work to do. There's no question about that. But, man, the organization is phenomenal.
And someone had sent a response to the show about something, asking if I had concerns of all the JMU players in the locker room. I'm like, no, why? I think that they thought that there might be some kind of jealousy for some reason. I'm like, no, man, there's guys from all over the damn place. Always has been. There was before last year. No.
They got like 40 new guys on the team. I mean,
yeah.
No, there's none of that. I did watch Donovan McCulley look terrific in practice yesterday on Saturday, I should say, and I was really impressed with how he looked. Look, this is a process. It's going to change as we go forward. But I think if you're going to want to see a little bit of a preview about what this program is going to look like, you'll come to the game on April the 18th, a Thursday night, for spring practice. It'll be very interesting to see it. And there's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, I think the offense is going to be much more dynamic, and
we probably won't see much of it on that day, on that night.
Oh no, they're going to be holding on to that. But I've said it already, and I will be shocked if Indiana is not in a bowl game next year. And I don't throw that stuff out. But the schedule is laid out for it. It's perfect. You got 8 home games, first of all, but then so many of the teams, Don, that they're playing, like UCLA, where they have to travel to, they're down. They're down enough that Chip Kelly says, I'll take an OC job as apparently being the head coach. So you got a new coach there. You got a new coach at Washington, second-year coach at Purdue. So there's so many things that line up for Indiana as well. I think that they could have an incredible season to start things off for Kurt Cignetti without question.
We'll see. Obviously, the proof is in the pudding. You got to see him play. But like I said, from what I've seen in 2 practices without pads, just shoulder pads and shorts or whatever, I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen thus far.
Don Fischer, appreciate you, my friend.
You bet. See you later.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Don Fischer joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for
if you want to run that Calipari thing here, especially to give yourself a break, that would be probably good.
Oh, I want to run it just because it's funnier than shit.
Oh, it is. I'm sure it is. I listened to a little bit of it, but not a bunch of it.
The fact that people can't see it sucks.
Now, do you want me? It's over 5 minutes long, or you want me to play all of it?
You know what? I wouldn't mind it just because it's that funny.
Okay, that's fine. Just if at any point you want to just cut in, I guess just be like, all right, that's it or whatever.
And why is it that I just wish we could show him. Gosh, damn it. Just seeing him, because he looks like Sam Kinison, people. And John doesn't know who Sam Kinison is. John, you should pull him up real fast and see a clip of Sam Kinison. He's a comedian, or used to be a comedian. He died in a car wreck. But oh! That helps the voice. No!
Well, he does kind of look like him.
Listen to him. It's his voice, too.
All right. How much time we got? A minute and a half.
And I got plenty of stuff I can talk about if you need to get it ready or something.
Oh, I've already got it pulled up. And you'll want it because we have the hard break here. You'll probably do this first, and then if we need to fill any time after the fact, we can do that then.
Mamacita.
All right, 30 seconds.
Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Ford, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday of the after the first round of NCAA play. Men and women, Indiana women play their second round game this evening. I think it's at 6:40 at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, where they will take on the Oklahoma Sooners for a spot in the Sweet 16. And good luck to the women's program. I hate to say this, but I think they have a chance at winning another game in the tournament, but that's going to be it. And I say that because they are in the very, very bad position of being the last 4 seed, which means they have to play the number 1 team, which is South Carolina. And South Carolina, they might be able to beat a couple of the men's teams. They're awesome, and Dawn Staley is an awesome coach as well. She is super, super good coach. Very, you can tell is someone who resonates with players. You can see by the commercial she does with Mike Krzyzewski. But then on the other hand, you've got Kim Mulkey from LSU, who is now in a war with the Washington Post, and that is not a good position to be in. The Washington Post is not someone to screw with, although she is, because first of all, there's a piece coming out on her by a very, very well-known writer from the Post, but she has already said, if this comes out or if this is, I'll sue this, that, and the other thing. And, but I cannot imagine the Post putting out something that is not locked down and all of that when you put it out on a story like that. Anyway, we'll get to that. But there is I guess it's a Twitter deal called Awful Coaching. And I don't know the guy that does it, but he looks and sounds like Sam Kinison without cussing and is absolutely hilarious. I had never watched one of these until somebody sent this to me over the weekend, and it is absolutely hilarious. It completely eviscerates John Calipari, whom he calls John Crapapari. John Crapapari and Steph Goki, Steph Curry Goki. Jack Goki, the guy that just lit Kentucky up for 10 3-point shots in their game against the Wildcats, knocking them off. And he basically just dissects games about bad coaching and just completely points it out, lays it out. There's video that goes with it, which you might not get to see the video, which really aids to it, but I would definitely go find this. It's worth the watch. I think I reposted it on my Twitter. I know I did. So you can just go to my Twitter and go back a few. It shouldn't be very far back, but this is him just eviscerating the coaching of John Crapapari, as he calls him. And he has the same feelings that a lot of people that won't express it. I've said it a lot. I think he's not a good coach. If he was such a good coach, how do you have the number one recruiting class, 10 out of 11 years, and when you win games, but man, they didn't win any. They won one title in all that time. He won a title in 2012, his second year in, and they've been chasing it ever since. I know they went to some Final Fours, which is huge, but you know where Kentucky fans are right now. They're up in arms way more than Indiana fans are. Believe you me on that. But John, all right, I guess let's just hit it. If there's any way you can show any of him, that's great. This guy looks and sounds like Sam Kinison, and he's not trying.
It is so sad to watch. You have a head coach in John Calipari making $9 million, gets praised, is in the Basketball Hall of Fame somehow. This guy is terrible. He's awful. Right here, it's a cross screen. So poorly coached. On a cross screen, it's not an option. I've got to jam Jack Golke as he comes through the screen. Nope, you don't do it there. Lucky you, Kentucky. You get a second chance. Right here, are we going to jam him as he comes through the second cross screen? Nope, Steph Curry Golke because of Crapapari. It's everything wrong with the world. John Calipari is everything wrong with society. First of all, it's a stagger screen. We're supposed to be going over, then under. The main problem, and this is coaching. This is not a down screen. You go over this. Kentucky, I'm attached to the screener with my arms extended so that Golke guy isn't curling right into a wide open three. How's the defender supposed to get over this screen? He's curling right off it. Steph Curry Golke again. Here's some more coaching. You went into this tournament game with your $9 million salary. Every time these two Kentucky players are involved in a screen or a handoff, it is a switch. You cannot talk. You cannot think about switches in the middle of a frickin' play. Look at this. You're trying to emergency switch right here. Boom. Obviously, Shepard's not ready to guard. Steph Curry Golke again. $9 million. $9 million. And people praise this idiot. What down screen? How is the defender here supposed to get over the top of this screen if Ivic just not attached to Townsend with his arms extended? So Golke can't curl. How? Look at this. How's the defender supposed to get over this screen right here? How? He's not. Crapapari. Steph Curry Golke again. Antonio Reeves. Nope. But don't worry. It's not you. It's your $9 million pile of garbage coach, John Calipari. I'm always underneath Golke. Always. Battling for position, nudging him out of the lane. So because of this, look at how you're guarding right here. You're supposed to be attached to his hip, chasing over the top. But because you were guarding like that, and again, Crapapari doesn't go over this clearly, you're going to be going clank, right into the down screen. But again, could we get attached with our arms extended on Townsend so Golke's not curling? Nope, I forgot. Kentucky is coached by a complete pile of trash. This guy's in the Hall of Fame. Really? The entire Hall of Fame should be ripped apart. Start over. Kentucky's switching this screen. This is something you go over in film, in practice. What? So Reed Shepherd, what are you doing? Stay attached to Golke. There's a switch. Where are you headed here? There's Steph Golke again. This guy's in the Hall of Fame. $9 million a year. 9. Watch how many mistakes they're going to make on this play. Again, Ivicic isn't attached to the screener with his arms extended. So there's Golke curling again. That's why there's 4 steps of separation right now. So how about this down screen? Probably got to switch it, right? Nope. How about on this handoff? Got to get up, right? We can hedge the screen. Push him out. Do not give up an open 3. Push him out beyond the 3-point line. There's no place for Townsend to roll to. You have backside help everywhere. Nope. Let's gut Golke cook some more. Hall of Famer. Right out of the half. Right? So maybe at halftime, the Hall of Famer, $9 million a year. Maybe we want to adjust this, right? We want to actually guard these screens. What about one of your 500 graduate assistants? No, another cross screen. Must jam Golke as he comes through, right? He's been on a heater the whole first half. Let's see. Nope, not going to touch him. That's why, again, there's 3 steps of space between the defender and Steph Golke. How about right here? Down screen. Do we get attached and our arms extended? Hall of Famer, $9 million a year? Nope, complete garbage. Steph Golke. Everything wrong with the world is John Calipari. Antonio Reeves. No. If this team was well coached by a Hall of Famer, it isn't. And Calipari's awful. He should be making $9 a year, not $9 million. Reed Shepherd will be calling out, flare, flare, flare. So Reeves knows I got to get up, press up on Golke, right? We're not going to lean towards the flare screen early. We're just going to make sure we get over the top if he comes off it. Look at Reeves leaning towards the flare screen early. That's coaching. Steph Golke from deep. $9 million is still a 2-point game. Kentucky is still in this game despite its Hall of Fame $9 million head coach. Antonio Reeves. Golke's hit 9 threes this game. 9. The tournament record is 11.
15 seconds.
How about we just stay in front of Golke, please, and get a stop? Why? Why would you gamble there? Why? Steph Golke, John Calipari. Everything wrong with society.
That was just pure gold. I loved it. That's something I'm going to have to listen to again. It's great. That guy is phenomenal. Awful coaching is where you can find that on Twitter. But we've got tons more coming up in our next Trevor will join us from Purdue.
Travis Miller.
Or Travis Miller from Boiler Upload, Purdue, with 2 dominant wins over the weekend and much, much more as the portal season is hot and plenty more to talk about as well. Here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For those looking for a home in the Indianapolis market, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference in getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
I'll be right back.
How was that? It's even more entertaining if you watch that with the video, because he's in the corner screaming his head off and running the video thing that he's showing you on video. And he looks and sounds like Sam Kinison. But oh my God, as someone said, I laughed and I watched that thing 3 times in a row. It's not, and not only that, that wasn't just one video. He ended up cutting 2 and put them together, and he normally doesn't do that. Number 1. Number 2, apparently he does a lot of NBA stuff normally. Man, that dude that's oh, that I love that. I forgot that, Sean. I forgot that Sam Kinison was in the movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield. That's an old one. Good oldie buddy goodie. But oh man, I hope you all enjoyed it. Oh, did you ever? Oh, you did look at you. So you saw who Sam Kinison was, right?
Yes, I did. By the way, someone said he sounds like Gilbert Gottfried too, and I think that's a pretty good comparison. Not quite as exaggerated, but whenever he got really loud, he kind of had a Gilbert Gottfried talking to him. Nice coaching.
Yeah, Gilbert is a much slower paced.
Yeah,
that's the thing about Sam Kinison. He's just rapid fire like a machine gun. Ow, 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 ow! You took my heart! You broke my heart! You just watch a clip and you'll understand.
Or this will be your last solo of the day, as long as Travis wants to do 2 segments with you at least. And I'll do this segment with you so you don't, talk your brains off. We can talk some of the games this weekend or the ones coming up.
Oh, be-do, 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 be-do.
All right, here we go. Time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by The Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Corbin, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday of post-weekend incredible play. College basketball, just a whew. I hope you had as much fun as most everybody else. I didn't get to watch as many games as I'd like to because of traveling and like being in Indianapolis was up there for those first round games. Purdue, of course, with a dominant opening round game against Grambling. But I've got to tell you, that was like watching the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals. They just did not have – they had nothing. I'd say Grambling was probably the least talented team in the tournament. Noticed I didn't say worst because that's funny that the reason that's in my head is because I noticed something in this first round of the women's tournament here in Bloomington. We were in the press room after Indiana's win, and I noticed that and this is not something that they're only doing at here in Bloomington, but I think this is an NCAA mandate. They have the press room announcers, which there's always someone in the press room that MCs, for lack of a better word, everything. They are telling you the schedule of how the post-game pressers are going to go. And the winning team has a 10-minute cooling off period, and then the locker room is opened, but they also bring the coach and 2 players onto the dais. And after that, it's not the losing team, it's the non-advancing team. And I just
really
found out
how they do that now. I mean,
where to
really
God, and instantly I was like, I just turned around. Rick Bozich was behind me, and I just said, "Oh man, we're going full PC, man. There are no losers here. Everybody gets a trophy."
The non-advancing team.
The
My
winners
goodness.
and the non-advancing teams. So, yeah, I found that to be funny. So there's that. The late night NCAA games, like I mentioned, I watched them right to the bitter end. I couldn't believe it. The men's was Houston, number 1 Houston outlasting number 9 Texas A&M in overtime. A hell of a game. But as soon as that was over, I noticed that there was a women's game. So I'm like, that can't be live. And well, yes, it was. And that was number 2 Stanford taking on number 7 Iowa State. That game went to overtime. And Indiana grad Tara Vanderveer at Stanford was able to get her 100th NCAA tournament win.
Wow.
Think about that. 100 NCAA tournament wins. That is a crap ton of wins in the tournament. But Hall of Famer, it's just funny. And if you, the footprint that Indiana still has on the game of basketball, men's, women's, it doesn't matter. You had the Bob Knight, who was the all-time winningest coach for a while. Now it's still Mike Krzyzewski, to the best of my knowledge, who played for Knight, who was assisted for Knight at Army, or at, I don't know if he did at Army or not, but definitely at IU for a season. So you've got that relationship going for you. Then Tara Vanderveer, one of the most successful women's coaches of all time, an IU graduate. So that's just, the footprint continues to grow. Now we've got Dusty May up at Michigan. And that footprint just continues to grow. Now, I haven't had time to look around to see what the backlash has been, but
I haven't seen a ton. I also haven't sought it out.
Yeah, me either. I haven't had time.
But it's one of those things. I won't get too far into the weeds on this. I think Dusty May could end up being a fantastic coach. And right now, I think he's a good coach. And Michigan hiring him is going to give him the opportunity to prove that he can be a better coach than he already is. He is riding off the coattails of a Final Four run with Florida Atlantic, which, of course, you can't take that away from him. But if you do look at his other seasons, including this one being a little bit better than the ones before his Final Four run, Dusty May has not. I mean, he's not, obviously he's a younger coach, but he's not. I feel like he's overvalued as a head coach because of his Final Four run. I'll say that.
Well, I can understand people saying that, but
yes, how
many coaches have been coaching for a long time and haven't gotten to a Final Four? And I'm not pointing them out specifically. Matt Painter would be one. And Dusty did it with a lineup that was probably not ranked in the top 50 of college teams. So now part of that goes with, you need luck. Everybody needs luck to getting to the Final Four, winning a national championship. Houston, okay, if they make the Final Four, how much luck was involved in that? They had a walk-on at the free throw line with 17 seconds to go in that game last night. A walk-on, because they became the first team since 1987 to win an NCAA tournament game with 4 players fouled out onto the bench, 4 starters. A 5th starter had 4 fouls, but they are able to win that game. 4 starters fouled out, the 5th with 4. But you need luck without question. And San Diego State, I think they moved forward last night, didn't they?
They did.
So
They're a 5 seed.
But they're one of the teams remaining from last year's Final Four, along with UConn, who showed that they're not messing around so
they
far.
Don't look. I mean, I know that they have lost some games, but UConn, to me, I don't know who's stopping UConn. At least,
well,
right now.
I mean, Travis Miller will be the first person to say Purdue, and now he's not alone. And they'll look at their opening 2 round game wins of dominant performances by Zach Edey, but I don't know that they've played anybody. Neither of those teams had anything for Zach Edey. I mean,
listen to this fun fact about Purdue's potential route to the national championship. There is a very realistic possibility that beginning with this week's Sweet 16, they face Gonzaga. There's a chance that their Elite 8 matchup and their Final Four matchup, those 3 games from Sweet 16 to Final Four, will all feature teams that they played and beat in the Maui Invitational earlier this year in the exact same order that they played and beat them back in November, December, whenever that tournament was.
Say that again.
That's pretty wild. So, and Travis Miller will probably lay this out here too when he comes on, but Purdue could potentially face every team in the exact same order that they faced and beat in the Maui Invitational earlier this year. And so they play Gonzaga in the Sweet 16 first. If Tennessee beats Creighton, that would be the next team they beat. And then if Marquette makes the Final Four, and so does Purdue, that will be who they beat in the Maui Invitational Championship. So it's pretty wild to potentially face all 3 of those teams again in the same order.
Yeah, and next up is drawing a blank right now. Out Gonzaga.
Yeah, I just mentioned that Gonzaga.
One big right, but the thing about that is, I was listening and Mark Few was not talking about Purdue, but he was just talking about when they lost in the title game. I forget who they lost to, Baylor. When they lost to Baylor in the title game just a few years ago, that Mark Few had said he wished that they had played them earlier in the season to get an understanding of their physicality. Well, now Mark Few did play a team, or is going to play a team he played earlier in the season. So they have an understanding of Mount Edey and what that's going to take to get around. So that's going to be interesting. Number 2, Gonzaga is going to their 9th consecutive Sweet 16. That's pretty damn good.
It is.
9 straight Sweet 16s. They have played since 2015 in more NCAA games than anybody. They have won more NCAA games than anybody since 2015, but they've not won a title. Now you've got Purdue, who has not won a title. Those 2 will clash this week, so that's going to be interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see if Mark Few can use that previous experience to his advantage. A unique factoid about Dusty that AJ Guyton sent out that I just reposted, that I didn't know this, that, Dusty, although he grew up in Greene County, went to high school there and school at IU, etc., he was born in Peoria, Illinois. And of course, that's where AJ's from over there. He's like, Dusty, man, you've got some splaining to do. So that's kind of funny. But congratulations to Dusty. Yeah, that man, what a misfortunate guy. I guarantee you, it came down to a decision for him, but it was really between Louisville and Michigan. Everybody keeps trying to throw Vanderbilt in there, and I'm like, man, please. You're not putting Vanderbilt on the same line as Louisville and Michigan. One's in the Big Ten, and the other one is in the ACC, and has, both have had success, but Louisville probably more basketball success, obviously, than Michigan. But he's not locked up like as much as I thought he would be. A 5-year deal at only $3.75 million, which, I say only, that's about 3.75.9 more than I make. But
what's the buyout? Are you going to get into that, or is that been released?
I haven't seen that yet, but I'll just, if you just did the math, that's 5 times.
You think it wouldn't be
3.
much, but here's the thing: it wouldn't surprise me if Michigan has a clause in there, and maybe even specifically for Indiana, that is a much larger buyout than somebody who isn't Indiana University, if that makes sense.
Or not Indiana specifically, or just Big Ten.
Maybe, and that too could just be the
that
Big
would allow
Ten.
That would allow them to not name a school. They wouldn't have to that way. I would want them, in the same conference, but for the same reason that what's going to happen with the top. Not only is Florida Atlantic losing the best coach that they've ever had, they're going to lose at least the top 2 basketball players they've ever had, probably, and John L. Davis and Golden, their center, and who are expected to follow Dusty to Michigan. So there's that. There's just not really a lot to talk about there, because there was not an opening at IU. IU is not going to fire Mike Woodson, just like Kentucky is not going to fire John Calipari. It cracks me up. I mean, you can get as mad as you want, both of those fan bases, but it's not happening. Now, the thing for Indiana is Indiana seems to always be in a situation where they are a day late and a dollar short. They're always a year behind of being able to make a move, it seems. Maybe that just appears that way, but it just seems that way. Regardless of that, Indiana has a coach. They have to worry about filling at least 7 spots on their roster. I do expect Hillel Ware to go. I just do. He has the tools to be an NBA player. And for all the fans say, "Oh, he's not ready. He's not ready. He needs another year. You don't make that decision. I don't make that decision. Hillel Ware does not make that decision. You know who makes that decision? The general managers of the 32 NBA teams. That's who makes those decisions. If they decide you're ready to take a shot at, then guess what? You are ready. If you're a first-round pick, you don't turn down the opportunity to get drafted in the first round. Everybody says, "Oh, well, you could stay and another year." Man, they've got stuff for you. They can two-way you to the G League, where you're not going to school. You don't have to worry about taking tests. Your only job is to play basketball. I say this every year. So just, yeah. But we'll see how that works out. Did you just say break?
Yes.
All right. We got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up, lots of basketball to talk to. I'll try to get back over to the comments. I'm looking at so much stuff right now. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down on Anna Maria Island, Florida, for those of you that live down on the Sunshine State, and for those that travel down and around there. We have plenty of Hoosier fans, Hoosier peeps, and brother, you're Boilers, man. It's just a great place to go eat down there and watch some games. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly.
All right, Travis will be on shortly. And speaking of him, looks like he's popping on right now. Good morning, Travis.
Morning. How are you two gentlemen?
Good. Is your camera off?
Oh, yeah. Forgot I had it closed.
Here we go.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Hey, sorry to steal your thunder, Travis, but I already mentioned the Maui Invitational thing for Purdue. But I thought that was an awesome observation, though, that you made.
Yeah, it's weird, and obviously you can count on nothing at this point in the year. But if you want to look for some irony, the last time Purdue played in the regional finals in Detroit was 1988 against Kansas State, a team it had beaten by double digits in the regular season, and it lost by 3.
Huh.
Oh. Edey's cracking me up. He's giving everybody the stink eye.
I'm fine with it. He's focused right now.
It does feel like this Purdue team is on a mission, which is not something we're used to seeing.
Yeah, I think last year really hit it for him, but we'll see this week. I'm always on guard with them.
What? It's the last ride of the game of the James gang. They've got to get it done.
Yep. Oh, hi, Ventress. You gonna stop in?
What kind of dog you got, or cat, whatever it is?
I have 2 black cats. I have Ventress and I have Nebula.
What's Ventress? What's that name come from?
It is a Star Wars character from the Clone Wars. My son named her.
Nebula's a cool name too.
Yeah, he picked that one from Nebula in the Marvel universe.
Man, I wonder if the junior all-stars are going to beat the senior all-stars this year.
I saw that list. It's a solid list.
Good Lord.
They are all undecided, too. I did not know that.
You've got 6'8" Briscoe from Crispus Attucks, Brady Kohler, 6'9" Kohler from Cathedral, 6'6" Braylon Mullins of Greenfield Central, 6'1" Xavier Robinson from Lawrence North, 6'8" Trent Sisley of Heritage Hills.
Here we go, guys. 10 seconds.
9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Porter, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday post basketball crazy weekend. And as always, it was a crazy fun one. Lots of games going on in Bloomington and Indianapolis, and of course, all in parts all over the place. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload joins us. We were both up in Indianapolis for that round of games. Purdue opens up with a game against the Washington Generals and handles them pretty well, pretty easy. What was the tallest player they had?
I think they had a 6'10" guy they threw out there at one point, but
I don't think he was a regular player.
I think the funniest comment that I heard was late in the game when Purdue had put in the bench and they put in the 7'2" Swedish kid, Will Berg. He comes onto the floor and some Grambling guy behind me goes, "When do they let the avatars play in this?"
Oh, yes. But a huge weekend for Zach Edey and Purdue as they have 2 dominant wins over Grambling and then Utah State. But things ramp up this weekend as they will play a Grambling team, a Gonzaga team, of which you just saw that they're currently just a 4-point favorite over. And I mentioned previously, this is the 9th straight Sweet 16 for Gonzaga, but although they have the most since 2015, the most NCAA tournament wins, they got 0 titles, man. Of course, you got Purdue who's seeking their first title. So here's a clash. Does Mark Few's quest end by Purdue, or does Purdue's frustration carry on. So somebody is at least going to be happier, at least for a weekend. And earlier I mentioned Travis, and I saw something that Mark Few had said in regards to playing Baylor back for the title game a few years ago. Is he wished that he had played them earlier in the season to have a better understanding of the physicality of that team, because it really was a big part of why they lost to Baylor. And now he does have an understanding of Purdue's Zach Edey and what goes along with there. So you know what's coming, at least. Whether or not you can stop it, that's a whole different story. But you look through the tunnel, you see a light coming, you just don't know if it's a train or not. So, no pun intended there. Slid that one in. But yeah, but Purdue fans very, very happy with the outcome this weekend in Indianapolis.
Yeah, yesterday they were down 24-23 with about 8 minutes left, and Camden Heide gets a rebound, an offensive rebound. He turns it into a dunk, and that was effectively shifting Purdue into a different gear because they just blew Utah State's doors off from that point forward. It's almost like they just kind of let them hang around for 12 minutes and did we fooled around long enough. It's time to put this team away. But looking forward here at Gonzaga, you mentioned the familiarity there and everything. Yeah, it's there. They played last season out in Portland. Purdue won by 18. They played earlier this year in the Maui Invitational. Purdue won by 10. And it is something where they're very, very familiar with Purdue. They've lost to them twice now within the last 15, 16 months. And you're not going to have a lot of non-conference familiarity there at this point in the season. So that is something that's going to help. It is not the first time Purdue and Gonzaga have met in the NCAA tournament. They met in 2000 in the Sweet 16, and Purdue won by 9. And all-time Purdue is now 4-0 against Gonzaga. I actually remember the very, very first meeting was my sophomore year. We played them in the preseason NIT in Mackey Arena, and Gonzaga was Gonzaga. I don't think they had even made the tournament before that. And now they're on a streak of 24, 25, 26 consecutive tournaments. So it's just interesting to see that the history there went from, we're playing this small school no one's ever heard of out in Washington 25 years ago to, they're one of the premier schools in college basketball. And it's amazing that they've been able to build.
Freezer. He's in the freezer. Travis is in the freezer first. There we go.
Am I back now? Or
You're back, baby.
Yeah, I saw you freeze too. So I don't know whose end it was on.
Well, go ahead and finish.
Yeah, but yeah, I was talking about Gonzaga. It's just amazing to see how they have grown as a program. I saw them my sophomore year at Purdue in the preseason NIT, and Purdue beat them. And at the time, I was like, where in the hell's Gonzaga? Who the hell is Gonzaga? And that was before they were Gonzaga. So just they've been a fun team to watch over the years. And like you mentioned, just incredibly successful without an NCAA title, but 7 straight Sweet 16s? You cannot discount that.
No, and it's going to be, I think it should be a good game because Mark Few played them. And he knows that they're going to have to do some things differently. I'm looking at a post now from Jared Odell, former Indiana player, that says, big guys from outside the Big Ten. You won't be the first guy to stop Zach. Quit trying. Play him from a different side every possession. Give up a 2. Don't let him have 3. Quit banging on him. Survive till the second half with fouls. Then go balls out like you never have. That makes more sense because you're not going to, I get Purdue fans would hammer me for this, and that's fine. But I don't think Zach's a great basketball player. I think he's a great immovable object that is so unique and so different than what you're used to from every other game you've played this year, because you have not seen anything like it. You might have seen other guards that could shoot lights out. You may have seen other guards that are fast. You may have seen other slashers, but you have not seen a Zach Edey, period. He is a monster at 7'4", 300 pounds. He can only jump about 3 inches off the ground, but he doesn't have to. And Zach's right, man. You're not going to hockey shack him. He's a good free throw shooter. So you're only hurting yourself in that regard.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the last 2 games that Purdue played against Gonzaga, because they have obviously they played them earlier this season. They played them last season out in Portland. The game in Portland, Purdue won by 18. Edey had 23 points, 7 rebounds. He was 10 of 16 in 31 minutes. This year out in Maui, 25 points, 14 rebounds, 8 of 16 from the floor, 9 of 10 from the free throw line, 3 blocks. So they've gotten 2 shots at him, and it's been ineffective at best for them. I know that he had some help this year. Braden Smith had 13 points, and so did Lance Jones in the game out in Maui. But they've not been able to stop him yet. And like so many games, and like it's going to mean later on this year in the tournament, however long Purdue plays, it depends on what the guards do. You saw yesterday, Lawyer had 15 points while Braden Smith battled foul trouble. Braden Smith had a fantastic game against Grambling. Purdue was hitting its threes yesterday. You have Miles Colvin come in off the bench and he hits 3 threes. You have Camden Heide come in. He hit a big 3. So as long as Purdue is able to knock down those threes, 35%, as long as you're shooting 20 of them a game, you shoot 35%, that's going to keep teams honest. And like you said, you cannot physically guard Zach Edey one-on-one. It is not possible.
Now, I was having a conversation. It's going to take me a second to remember who I was talking with on this, but they were talking about Trace Jackson Davis. And the reason that one of the reasons Indiana was able to have success against Purdue last year is because Trace Jackson Davis was not a straight up match for Zach Edey, but he was just more athletic, and he had enough size that he could battle with him. I'm not saying stop, but battle with him and cause problems for Zach Edey having to keep up with a little more athleticism. And you're going to have somebody like that on your team. Trace Jackson Davis is playing in the NBA right now. So you need a big that is athletic and talented that can cause some problems. Now, if you've got one that is that and can shoot from outside and draw him away, that's even more so.
Yeah, and the closest approximation to that was when they played out in Portland in the 2022-23 season when they had Drew Timme, and Timme played 36 minutes. He had 22 points, 9 rebounds. He took a couple threes and hit one, but Zach really kind of got the better of him in that matchup. And again, it came down to the guard play too. Lawyer and Smith combined for 28 points in that game. They hit 5 threes between them, and you also had a solid game from Caleb First off the bench. I think another player that's going to make a huge difference, you probably saw this yesterday, Trey Kaufman-Renn. Yesterday was one of his best games as a Purdue player. 18 points, scored the first 8 of the game, and he really took advantage of all of the focus that Utah State put on Edey. And if you get Kaufman-Renn and Edey going on that low block, I mean, they combined yesterday for 41 points. If they're going to score 41 points, you're not beating Purdue.
Absolutely. And this next round is going to be another fun one, I think, for everybody, not just Purdue. But Purdue, I don't have the brackets pulled up, but what are the options if they're able to get past Gonzaga in their bracket?
Well, if they get past Gonzaga, they would play the winner between Creighton and Tennessee. They have already beaten Tennessee this year. They beat them by 4 in the second round of the Maui Invitational, because it's entirely possible they could go Gonzaga, Tennessee, Marquette, just like they did out in Maui, with Marquette in the Final Four. The Marquette will have to get past, I believe it's NC State. Houston has to get past Duke. But that would be their Final Four opponent. I'm not even thinking that far ahead. I'm not even dreaming that far ahead. But you've got to feel at least cautiously optimistic for, as well as Purdue played this weekend in Indianapolis, and they get 2 opponents that they're very familiar with. They've already beaten 2 of them in the Elite Eight. I'd be interested to see if they play Creighton with Kalkbrenner. He might be able to give kind of that one-on-one matchup to where he's not going to shut Edey down, but he can at least hold his own one-on-one against him in the Elite Eight for Creighton. So, but Creighton's got to get past Tennessee, and with Dalton Connect, Tennessee's going to be a very, very good team. That was a very foul-plagued game out in Maui that was, pretty much devolved into a free throw shooting contest in the final moments, and Purdue won. But, nothing is guaranteed at this point. But if Purdue plays like they did against Utah State, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for a team to beat them.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to get down to teams doing things better than they've done. The Creighton Tennessee game is going to be a hell of a game. Both of those teams are very good, and either one of those teams will be a worthy opponent for Purdue if they move forward. Tennessee, obviously, a game that you win by 4 shows that they have the talent. And with Dalton Connect, if it wasn't for Zach Edey, probably the player of the year in college basketball.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the box score now for that Tennessee game. That was another big game for Edey. All of them are big games for Edey. He had 23 and 10. He had foul trouble in that game too, but the difference really was Fletcher Lawyer. Fletcher Lawyer had 27 points. That's his season high, and he carried Purdue in that game. They limited Connect to 16 points and 7 rebounds. But it was a game where Tennessee shot 30 free throws. Purdue shot 48. That is 78 free throws between 2 basketball teams over a 40-minute game. 78. I don't think you're going to get that again. At least I hope not, because a lot has been made about, it's ugly. It's how Purdue plays basketball and whatnot. That's what happens in some of these games. They just devolve into foul fests. And, okay, so Purdue can shoot free throws and win foul fests. I think they also showed yesterday they can get out and run with a team, because you don't score 106 points without being able to run a bit.
Braden Smith started the first game off hot. Then he's missed like 5 or 6 in a row, but he was pouring in the assists, and he is really kind of focused on that. It seemed, even when his shots aren't going, that he starts looking for the other guys to get the ball to.
Yeah, and that's what his MO is he wants to distribute the basketball, and that is the biggest difference this year between this year and last year. He had 0 turnovers against Grambling State. 10 assists, no turnovers. Last year when they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson, he had 6 assists, but he had 7 turnovers and really struggled in the second half. So he has improved his game, and if he can look to score the basketball, I know Coach Painter wants him to look to score the basketball a little bit more, but he is fine with dishing off assists, leading to layups and dunks and everything, or finding an open 3-point shooter on the perimeter. And he has been masterful at that all season. He is averaging over 7 assists a game, 7.3 per game. You look at that, that's at least 14 points he's facilitating. Sometimes 15, 16, 17, depending on if the assist is for a 2-pointer or a 3-pointer. And that can't be overlooked when he himself is scoring 12 points. So, 14 points on assists, 12 points himself, that's more than Edey is doing a game. And you get the 2 of them going together. That is why Purdue has won 31 basketball games this year.
Absolutely. We've got to take a break. Travis Miller from Boiler Uploads with us right now. We're talking NCAA basketball, and we've got more of it coming at you right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
All right.
Indiana, boy, only state not to reseed the football tournament, and it continues.
They need to seed it for sectionals. I'm fine with everybody getting in, but when you can have a sectional where two undefeated teams play each other,
they're the only state that doesn't. Only state that doesn't.
That's crazy.
They'll probably be the last state to implement a shot clock in basketball. I'm not kidding.
How many states have implemented a shot clock in basketball?
That's a good question. A lot less than reseed, obviously, since that's 49.
I feel like down here in Kentucky, I don't know if they've started it, but they've had tournaments with the shot clock. I could be wrong, though.
I say that when you have classes, okay, add a shot clock for the higher, I don't know. Just what the hell do I know about it?
Well, Basil Malby's retired, my coach, so you can have a shot clock now that he's retired. I always loved Basil because he just won games, man. He didn't care if he won 87-83 or if he won 24-22, as long as they won.
I'm not a fan of the IHSA.
I could filibuster on the IHSA for years, but just give me back my one class tournament, please.
You know what? I'm fine with them. It should have been two classes. 1 and 2 should be one class. 3 and 4 should be one class. It's kind of like Kentucky does it similar. They have everybody, I think, still, but you have the single A tournament. Do they still have the single A tournament?
Kentucky does classless basketball.
But do they no longer have the single A tournament?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, they added that at least for a while.
They do classes in football, but that's I don't know if it's the only sport they do classes in, but most of high school sports in Kentucky are classless.
But enough about John Calipari.
John Calipari. Oh my God, dude! No, I'm not kidding. You should have listened. You should have been able to hear this thing I played that I retweeted from the other day from Awful Coaching. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. This guy, looks and sounds like Sam Kinison, first of all. And he's breaking
10 seconds.
Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us here on this Monday at Indiana Sports Beat Radio, joined by Travis Miller from Boiler Upload, brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg for our Southern Indiana fans. Need that championship smile. Go see our friend Dr. J at Reynolds Family Dentistry. Connor Esigian in the transfer portal. Peyton Sparks leaving Indiana to go back to Ball State, where he should have stayed, to be honest with you. Not only for himself, he would have played a ton more. Hell, he would have started. And I'm sure that Michael Lewis could have used him at Ball State last year. I'm sure that was a big loss. He basically sat on Indiana's bench for most of the time, unless somebody was in foul trouble. But I'm glad to see that. But man, the portal is going to be happening. We've got Dusty May, new coach in the Big Ten at Michigan, former Indiana basketball manager. Of course, he grew up right at Eastern Green, right 30 minutes away from here, from Bloomington as well, coming off of 6 or 7 years at FAU. But a Final Four run last year, losing this year in the tournament to Northwestern in overtime. So they could have gone on. They're like San Diego State, who's still going, one of the other Final Four participants from last year. But man, as soon as he lost, as that game was over, boy, everything ramped up. It was basically a war between Louisville and Michigan. And I had said that all along, I didn't think he would end up at Louisville because I didn't think it was a good fit. But then all of a sudden Saturday, man, the tea leaves were saying different, and the phone was blowing up. And so as much media was in Indianapolis, a lot of national people you have conversations with, it looked like he was gone to Louisville. And but Michigan is a bigger boy. But I'm surprised that not that it's not plenty of money, but 3.7, not a ton. I think it was fortunate for Michigan that he was only making 1.2 million at FAU, but they get him for 3.7, and it's just a 5-year contract. So, and I'm not saying this for an Indiana purpose, but his buyout couldn't be any more than like 15 right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, because from a recruiting aspect, now you've got Dusty May involved in recruiting the state of Indiana, with Purdue, with Ball State and Notre Dame and all these others, on top of Michigan State, Tom Izzo and Fran McCaffrey, who's here all the time as well. So the recruiting in this state is just going to get tougher.
And you already saw that Juwan Howard was involved in it too. I know that he didn't end up there, but Juwan Howard was right there to try and recruit Flory Badunga out of Kokomo. So it's not that unusual for them to come down. He got Glenn Robinson III out of Lake Central. He's gotten a couple of other players. Michigan itself has gotten a couple of other players that have gone there. So they've already been involved in the market here. And recruiting in Indiana is always going to be cutthroat, man. It's this state just has so much talent every year, and even underrated talent, honestly. I mean, Braden Smith was not that highly rated as a recruit. He might be an All-American this season. So you're going to get quality players, and I've always thought that a Ball State, an Indiana State, a Valpo, they could put together a good team on from the players that are left over, really, after all the big schools are done. So you get a bunch of Indiana kids that can shoot the basketball, that can play, a couple of bigs that come through. There's enough talent here to sustain several programs, and I'm not too concerned with it. He's got to prove that he can win at this next level. And then obviously, if he has any success whatsoever at Michigan, Indiana's going to come calling whenever they can Mike Woodson. So the cycle begins anew for Indiana.
The funny right now is you've got Indiana fans that are just up in arms. They're not happy with their coach and the trajectory of the program. Kentucky fans are even more up in arms about their coach. I saw someone said that they're apparently meeting to determine John Calipari's future. His future is probably coaching another year at least at Kentucky. And it's not because of a $33 million buyout. I can't see John Calipari going out on anything other than his terms to a degree. And by that, I mean at least another year. There's that they don't work something out at that point. Say, hey, if it doesn't work out here, we've got a plan in place. This is how it's going to happen next year. But and now you've got Kansas. People they're not happy at Kansas. You go out and you buy Hunter Dickinson for $1 million, and although they had an injury, of course, they are out. I think they started out 13-1 or something and ended the season 10-11.
Yeah, they really struggled down the stretch. They were the number one ranked team in the country in the Maui Invitational, and their only loss early on was to Marquette. Like you said, you start that well. I was kind of surprised they fell all the way to a 4 seed, but that was not the same team at the end of the year. and Gonzaga just really took it to them in the tournament this weekend. I was surprised that Gonzaga was that dominant, but Gonzaga is also a very different team now. They are playing some really good basketball, and I don't think Purdue can look past them this coming week.
Nope. And so I know that you have Purdue as your winner. Me, like most everybody else in the world, has UConn, and UConn still remains looking very, very strong. I think it was Northwestern that they beat the crap out of last night. After Northwestern ironically knocked off FAU in overtime, but UConn is they're a different beast. They're built differently. Houston, however, gets by in overtime, and they had a walk-on at the free throw line with 17 seconds to go in that overtime game, in which he hit 1 of 1 to put them up by 4 to make that a 2-possession game. I mean, they're the first team since 1987, Travis, to win a tournament game with 4 players fouled out on the bench. Their 5th starter had 4 fouls.
I'm sure that's Zach Edey's fault somehow.
Oh, well, of course.
But I think so far in the tournament, you got down to 16. You've got Purdue and UConn just look like the 2 best teams right now. They look like they're on a collision course for the championship game. And really, I think if both teams play to their capability, that's what you'll get in the national title game. Upsets can happen. I really think Gonzaga has looked very, very good. I think they were one of the more impressive teams of the weekend. They took a good McNeese State team and they just absolutely obliterated them in the first round. And then they blew out a very talented Kansas team in the second round. So I could see the winner of Purdue Gonzaga coming out of the Midwest quite easily. And then I think North Carolina has looked pretty solid too. They were quote unquote the weakest 4 seed or number 1 seed, but they did what they needed to do and they've got it done. Marquette showed a lot of poise this weekend here in Indianapolis. I know they were down big at one point to Western Kentucky. They come back and won that game. They came back and held off Colorado in what was a really good game yesterday. I could see Marquette really pushing Houston next week in that regional too.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out. Both of those teams. The funny thing about Gonzaga, before in the years before when they were up there in the elite, I don't want to say a lot of pressure, but there was a lot more talk of Gonzaga. Now they're kind of coming in under the radar. They're no talk, not all this talk of Gonzaga this year. It's UConn, Houston, Purdue. Those 3 teams. It was just 3. It wasn't 4. It was 3 teams. Kansas kind of bounced a little bit, but it was the other 3 teams that you've been hearing about. Gonzaga's kind of been under the radar, and that's where you'd love to be, probably.
Yeah, and I'm not going to discount anything from them. I think they've lost twice in the last 2 months. Both of those games to St. Mary's. St. Mary's a solid team. Already knocked out of the tournament, but they were a solid team all year too. And you can say, well, of course they have only lost twice in the last 2 months because St. Mary's is the only other team in their conference. You still got to go out and win those games. And they got a very nice win at Kentucky during that stretch. And they always play the tough non-conference that prepares them for the NCAA tournament. And I don't think anybody can look past them. I think they're a very solid team, and I think they're playing some really good basketball right now.
Russell says that Kansas fans don't think that Bill Self has been the same since his health scare. Well, they lost, one of their top players, to injury when he had to shut it down. And when you lose a top player at the end of the season, that's hard, especially when he's a guy that has the ball in his hands a lot.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. Robbie Hummel and Isaac Haas.
There you go. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this weekend plays out and who makes it to the Final Four. This is while the first weekend is the incredible weekend because it's just there are so many opportunities for these crazy upsets. Not that there aren't opportunities next weekend. It's half as many, number one. And, well, you've got Oakland, who finally, although not easily, bowed out of the Cinderella role. And Steph Curry Goki, as this guy called him on this, I'll have to send this to you. It's solid gold. He basically just shreds John Calipari, who he calls him. But yeah, incredible. It's from Awful Announcing, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
It was just awesome. But Kentucky,
it's the dream weekend for Greg Sankey, though. You could have all four regions be 1 seeds versus 2 seeds. And that's, what Greg Sankey wants, is he wants only marquee matchups. Well, it's been a very chalky tournament. But you can have, Iowa State as the 2 seed playing number 1 seed UConn. You can have number 1 North Carolina against Arizona. You can have Purdue against Tennessee. You can have Houston against Marquette. It's been a very chalky tournament. Your only true underdog, and I'm going to say they're a true underdog, is NC State's run from the first day of the ACC tournament to the Sweet 16. And as someone pointed out, if Virginia's best free throw shooter doesn't miss a free throw with 6 seconds left, NC State's not even in the tournament right now.
how many have they won straight now? Like 7?
Yeah, 7. They won 5 in a row in the ACC tournament, and then 2 this weekend. And man, they're doing what
and
they
then
need to do.
FAU Golden, their big man, was at the line with a 1-and-1 against Northwestern. Just needs to hit 1 to seal it. Doesn't get it done, and they end up ultimately losing that game. So sometimes it just comes down to one shot. Just like Eminem said, sometimes you only get one shot, baby. But so what are your expectations for the games upcoming this weekend?
I think you're going to have some really good basketball. I like UConn to come out of their region. They have just been absolutely solid all year. I don't think North Carolina can look past Alabama. Alabama is one of those real wild card teams in that they could get absolutely hot from 3 and just hit 15, 16, 17 against you, score 112 points out of nowhere, but they could also struggle. So they played a fantastic game against Purdue earlier this year. I think it would be interesting to see if they can come out of the West. And then the Midwest, I think, is pretty balanced. Purdue is not going to have an easy time with the second game against Gonzaga. They're not going to have an easy time against Creighton or Tennessee. And so I think any of those 4 teams could come out of that one. And then you have the South. Houston's a little bit suspect right now. They really struggled. I think I'm going to pick Marquette just because I think Marquette's really putting it together. They looked really solid this weekend in Indianapolis, and I'm gonna pick them to come out.
I can tell you that I do not have Houston in my Final Four. And I hate to upset you, but I don't have Purdue in my Final Four. Not that doesn't mean anything. But we'll see, because you got to win. My teams have to win the games. Creighton, who I do have in my Final Four, had to go to 2 overtimes to get to this point, and defeating Oregon, an upstart Oregon team out of the Pac-12. But I just wonder, has there ever been a team to win a double overtime game and make the Final Four? I'm sure there has in this length of time. But that's close. That's cutting it close when you got to go to overtime. I'm sure it's happened on numerous occasions, as a matter of fact. But man, we have got so much to do this week to follow, and I'm looking forward to it. The portal is still going to get crazier each day, because now we've got half of the teams out of the Final Four. So there's a lot of names that I would expect to start see popping into the portal today and forward. What's coming up next for you at Boiler Upload?
It is going to be all basketball this week. Casey's going to be up in Detroit taking care of things for us up there. And, we're just going to be churning out basketball content. We have the women's team is playing at Butler tonight in the women's NIT. So that'll be interesting. Big Ten baseball has started. Purdue took 1 out of 3 this weekend against Iowa, the preseason Big Ten favorite, and also spring football and everything else that comes with spring football.
Yep. The same with everybody at thehoosier.com as well, man. You kind of forget about spring football because of all that's going on. But big thanks to you, brother. Have a good week, and we'll see what happens next weekend.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload. Make sure you're giving them a follow if you're a Boiler fan, or just keep it up with what's going on in and around the Big Ten. Big thanks to Greg Rakestraw from the ISC Sports Network. Of course, go to ihsa.org if you want to catch the games this weekend. State finals, state championships for Indiana happen this weekend. Big thanks to Don Fischer, of course, and to Travis, dang it. Too many names in my mind. But thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines, and much more importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we've got no reason to be here, and we look forward to being back tomorrow with Mike DeCourcy and Chronic Hoosier and Mike Nislak. So until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Indiana women's basketball tonight in the NCAA round of 2. We'll have coverage of that. I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.